Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special presentation of Being Vulnerable. I am Carpool Tonal, aka Chris,
Hey,
and
I am Reba from Fireside Shadow.
and this is Paranormal Stories. Oh yeah, I mean the place I'm coming from you now is like the most haunted place in my house too. The lights never work. Oh, that's crazy. And I always, every time I've done Being Vulnerable in this like little basement corner, there's always something making noise behind me that I'm
Hmm.
always like. It also doesn't help that I'm surrounded by very, very old books. That's where I think that the ghost in this little corner of the basement is because there's books that are like 100 years old, Bibles that are like hundreds years old around me. My mom sells books, so she collects books, and she always gets them from like people donating and really old,
Hmm.
really old
Wow.
books and very yeah. I do think that because this is also was in my last house too that when I like lived around these boxes and I felt I would feel these energies, especially when we'd
Yeah.
open a box to find a book for her and like you could just feel this heavy energy just come out of the box when you opened it. It was like yeah.
Uh-huh. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's such a weird thing to sense things like that and be able to pick up on energy like that. It's impossible to explain to someone who doesn't also experience that. um, yeah, I actually haven't lived anywhere haunted in quite a while. Where I live now is definitely not haunted. But I thought of another story that's more weird than anything, and I don't have answers for it. But there was one time I woke up and my boyfriend was asleep by me, facing like towards the wall the other way. And I woke up to the shadow over him, almost like checking him out, like just kind of looking. It didn't feel malicious or anything, but like just kind of looking at him. And then it's like it looked up at me, saw that I saw it, and then just like ran out of the room. I still have no fucking idea what that was, and I haven't seen anything like that since. I haven't even sensed anything since. But it was just like, what?
Did you tell him about this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I did, and he had no idea either. He's just like, did you have like sleep paralysis? And I was like, no, I could move. I was
Did,
very awake.
did you ask him if what he was dreaming about?
I should have. Damn it. This was like months ago now. I
I
should have
mean,
asked him.
supposedly there are good and bad shadow figures, but there's the shadow figures that do like to feed off of like dreams, and they will they're feeding off the positive aspects of your dreams, and then it's turning your dreams negative. Um,
He
I
does
mean,
get a lot of nightmares, like I think more than I do.
and I mean you might have sensed something and it woke you up to like you're like wait I feel
Mhm.
something, especially if you're sensitive.
Yeah, like I also like got that sensation, like that thing. It was in my chest because I was kind of facing him, so it was like I don't know, just like oh, it's here, so it's here. And then yeah, I looked, and then it just looked surprised to see me. I guess it just
It's
like literally just out of the room.
yeah, I mean it definitely wasn't a succubus because
It didn't feel negative. I
yeah.
don't know what it was doing, but like it didn't give off a negative energy. It felt like it was checking on him or something.
Yeah, and I mean if it was a shadow figure, they I mean the and I don't think they're considered the negative ones as the ones that want positivity. They want light because they're just cloaked in darkness and they're so them taking the light from your dreams, happiness from your dreams and stuff. They're not doing it maliciously. They're doing it because they want light. Um, compared to like the shadow figures that encompass you in darkness, and those are the ones that I give it ran from you. And it didn't just like cloak you and make you fear in darkness, and it probably wasn't absorbing fear or anything. Like yeah,
Yeah. I wish I would have asked him what he was dreaming about. I
the
regret that deeply now. I was just like, do you know anyone that's dead? He was like, I mean, my grandpa. And I was like, this felt like a lady. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
maybe it's a spirit trying to protect him from the nightmares that he was having.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I if that ever happens again, I am going to have a questionnaire ready for this thing. Just check yes or no. But yeah, literally not since, not before that. I don't know. Super weird. And it just happened so quick.
See, when I got older, oh, I kind of used my bad vision as a crutch of not seeing shadow figures, even though sometimes I would sense the shadow figures, but like my blurry vision, I'd kind of just be able to like I can't see it, so I'm not seeing it. When I was younger, though, shadow figures they because I'd always sleep with the TV on um, because of the shadow
Oh yeah,
figures.
drown it out. Yep.
Um,
I
and
cannot sleep in silence.
yeah, and it was
Cannot.
the witching hour. For some reason, for the longest time, I'd always wake up right at 3, and that's when I felt like the room was the most dark, and like
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to hide under my covers and all this stuff. But I would see under my covers, I'd see kind of like shadows passing in front of the TV, and like that's where I would kind of like I know they were there and they were in the darkness with me, and it yeah, I was very fearful as a child because of how sensitive I was to things.
Yeah, I
Not
remember being a lot more scared as a kid too. I don't remember anything specific, but from that long ago.
as a kid, you kind of block out a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
especially when you
there's
get older.
mm-hmm. There is a lot I don't remember from being a kid. I don't know what happened with that.
I don't remember anything till I was like, oh, I have like little glimpses, but I don't actually have memory till
Mm-hmm.
anything under, I want to say 7. It's either 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But I kind of was told that it was because of I I had 2 major concussions when I was young. One when I was 5 and one when I was 8. And
Oof.
they were like
Yeah, that'll do it.
they were like that's why you don't remember.
That'll do it. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I went through was when I was like little. That much I know. Something that speaking of being vulnerable, um something that's really weird about my life is I don't have a single memory of my parents being a couple. And they weren't like I was 8 or 9 or something when they got or when they separated. But here's the crazy thing. From the day that my mom left my dad, my memories are like normal. So I don't know what happened.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah, something. And I know I was very fearful. Uh I think of ghosts as a kid and like I remember doing that thing like running up the stairs, you know, because there were demons at the bottom of the stairs chasing you, of course. I don't think that one was real, but yeah, like I couldn't sleep alone or anything for the longest time.
You just kicked something into mind that I had completely kind of departmentalized and I
Oh, do tell.
completely forgot about. I want to say so this is when this is after my family went to Virginia. This was probably when I was I don't know, like 6 maybe. and that's a rough estimate. But my 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 brother, it was his birthday, and my parents took him to, and we were in Virginia. That's how I remember that part. Took him to I think it was like a Toys R Us, and told him you could pick whatever you want, and he picked a Ouija board to have for his birthday present. And
That's kind of hilarious.
right,
That's not what you should be getting.
tells you a little bit about my brother too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 6 years older than me, so if I was like seven, he was I don't know, like 12, something like that. Which that does make sense. He was a little younger. But yeah, because a lot of the haunting stuff at the house started after that. Like the dark stuff, which I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was gonna get into on a different episode, but and I will. But so when we got back to Colorado or not, his birthday's 4th of July, so it's summertime and stuff. We decided as kids, they decided, I was too young probably to decide, that we were gonna camp out in the backyard. Um, Camping out in the backyard, my brother pulled out the Ouija board for the first time, and us four brothers started using it. I immediately got so freaked out about the stuff that was happening, about like the tents and the hands on the tent and all this crazy shit that I I left, went inside. I could not deal with it anymore, and I completely freaked out. Um, which is why it was kind of it's departmentalized. Why I kind of remember it is because I remember how scared I was seeing hands on the outside of the tent. We were in the middle of the backyard.
Oof.
That there was nobody there. My parents were out there freaking, and all the brothers were inside the tent, so it's not like we were playing pranks on each other. But
Wow.
they conjured something that night that stuck with my brother for a long time. And like after that is when we started having like actual malicious ghost experiences in that house that they would invade our nightmares, and they would invade
No.
like
Uh,
things were coming to life in our house that were inanimate objects, and then those things would appear in our dreams, and then we'd wake up and that the thing that appeared would be there with us, like yeah, specifically dolls. I'm gonna save this story for another thing, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is okay.
I
The moral of the story is don't mess with Ouija boards unless you say goodbye and you're in a good mental space and you're not a fucking teenager just doing it for fun because that's what happens.
don't get your 12-year-old kid a Ouija board for his
Oh my
birthday.
god. Like they don't know how to use it. Like there's a way to use it that is safe, but that is not it.
Yeah.
Using it as a toy is not okay.
And we were outside using it, which I have heard too. You at least have the protection of your household when you're inside. Um, yeah.
Oh my god. Luckily I never messed with the Ouija board like when I was young because my mom was so afraid of Ouija boards. And she instilled that in me from a young age too. So I never even wanted one. She was just like, yeah, when my sisters and I had when we ended up burning it. Yeah, so I never had one, but we did finally mess with one like last year, I think. With a friend and her her place I think is haunted. Because I do again, nothing malicious. It's just like there have been a couple of deaths there or like people who were there a lot have passed away.
Yeah.
Um and it just kind of feels like an average haunting. I know that sounds weird, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's probably just those people. So nothing malicious, just kind of spirits that haven't moved on. And we did a Ouija board and it was just one of the people that passed away that came through. And the thing that was the craziest about the Ouija board was this man's personality 150% came through. Like, I don't know how to explain it. The way it moved. I didn't even know this man, but I knew him by the end of that. Like how it moved on the board was this man's personality. The way that it said things was this man's personality. And he was kind of like a jokester kind of dude. Like like it was this guy. Like there was no other explanation.
No, I mean I could understand it because that's kind of what the my grandparent, my grandmother and them, because they're the person they're bringing forward. Not only like their inflections of how they speak, but their personality would come through, and like it would completely like my great aunt, my grandmother, are, like very inward persons. They're very introverted. They're not like these extroverted personalities, but I guess they would come through, and all of a sudden they just have all this energy, and they'd be like they'd even be moving different than they usually do,
Mm-hmm.
and like it and then the people that they were doing the seances for, like trying to get closure and stuff, they would recognize the movements and stuff from the as the person that they were trying to bring forth. And my and a lot of times they were like people that my grandparents didn't know that they were bringing forward, so it's not like they sat there and could study how this person, to try to. Another
Mm-hmm.
thing is the Santeria priests, they don't charge to do this stuff. This is just their gift that they're giving back. So it's different than psychics where they're like, all right, you got to pay this amount of money, and then they put on a show. No, this was something they were doing that was out of their responsibility to do.
Yeah. That's so interesting. It's so interesting how many different things like they can channel through and in different ways. uh
Yeah,
have you ever used one of these for like getting answers to things?
is it a crystal or is it a magnetic thing? It's just a
No,
crystal.
it's just a crystal pendulum and it just kind of well does exactly that pretty much.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
then you could tell when it. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
um so like what that is and what you know spirit box, the Ouija board, they're the conduits
Mm-hmm.
compared to like where my family never needed, we were the conduits.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So like yeah, it's
Yeah, I feel less, well, not totally less sensitive, but a little bit less sensitive now that I'm a little bit older
yeah.
than I used to be.
When I
But
open
yeah,
my
it's
when I open myself up to and like get in trances and stuff, I'm opening myself up to the sensitive world, and I can receive that. I just don't do it much, especially when I'm alone. It's that like
it's probably
eh.
better not to when you're alone. Like the thing about all this is do it safe and you'll be okay.
Yeah, because when I'm alone, I could easily go into the fear. Where
Hmm.
when I have people around me, like
You kind of become the protector almost. I don't know, at least that's what happens with me.
yeah, and it's like because I could feed off theirs because I- I'm an empath in the spiritual realm too, so I like absorb energy, and so I could feed off their positive energies and like protect myself through having other people's energies around me. When if I'm alone and then there's no like positive energy for me to, feed off of,
Mm,
or
can probably
I'm
get
only
sucked in.
I'm only absorbing the dark energy around me and stuff like that. I mean, and
Yeah.
and that's for more the darker spirits, not the lighter
Yeah,
ones,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
those I could tell like I'm not absorbing darkness
Hmm.
energy.
Yeah, and
Um,
those are kind of a whole different thing altogether.
so I'm like this on my brother, the one who got the Ouija board, who was also kind of the only other one who's kind of been passed on this the the Santeria gift that we have. He is one who creates energy. He doesn't absorb it.
Interesting. How does that work?
It's it's more like because it's a different type of because I'm like considered the spiritual empath. He's considered spiritual. It's another word instead of empath. It's apath. I don't know. It's but
Hmm.
basically he's able to make if he's in a dark mindset, his room will be filled with darkness, and this energy, the dark energy, will just be coming out of his room, and like it. For the longest time, it was so hard for me to, when he was in his darkest moments, I couldn't be around him because all I was doing was absorbing all of his dark energy. And it would like lead me to dark thoughts. It lead me to
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff that he was feeling and like hate and like all this like evil stuff. Um he it did change once cuz we did get like a second baptism later on in life, and once they basically washed away his darkness, cuz I mean the priest could feel it too. Like that was a big thing, was the priest could feel like there's something dark inside of him, and it is so powerful, as our spiritual powers, like it's so powerful, like you could just being around him, everyone, you're just on edge and all this stuff. Like it's not a poltergeist, but it's similar to a poltergeist.
Yeah, he puts it
Yeah.
out. I almost wonder if like he absorbed a lot of the negativity from whatever happened with that Ouija board, or like it was a bunch of attachments or something also radiating.
Well, they were feeding off his trauma. Whatever it was that was had hold of him was it was all his trauma just being, and he had so much from his since he was a child. Like
Yeah,
he had so much built up trauma that it was just pouring out of him as darkness. And like, I mean, me and my parents all were afraid to go into that room. Like he was in that room for like 2 years basically by himself, just propagating this dark energy and stuff. And um
that's too bad.
but I think it was my aunt, my godmother, who my dad reached out to, was like he needs some sort of exorcism type stuff. Um
Mhm.
and oh, and like his story of like it literally felt like he was burning when he entered the church and everything, but he felt like he needed to, and he didn't want to, like his will kind of took a little bit of strength of going into that church and actually allowing himself to break out into tears in front of the priest, and the priest blessing him, and just like then us going into doing that, that gave him a little bit of strength to actually want to get rebaptized and cleansed of just all this like dark stuff. And after that he was able to slowly build his life back up, and now he's doing really good. I mean, he's he doesn't have the darkness around him anymore. He was able to kind of re get back in society, and now
That's good.
him he
That's
able
so
to
tough.
able to find love, and now he's actually he's making more money than me and my dad right now. um, selling weed at a dispensary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but just that, because we were both the ones passed on the gift of that spiritual energy stuff. But I was the absorber, and he was the one who was propagating it, and it was not too good mix is to have.
Mm-mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, soaking everything up like a sponge is so hard.
especially when it was all trauma. Like,
Yeah, yeah, for real.
yeah, like at a point I had to I was creating spiritual barriers around my room so his trauma wasn't getting into my room, because it was just leaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like you could, like the minute you walk down that hallway towards this room, it's just everything was just dark. Even though there's a window right there with light, the light was not shining into the darkness. Like it was it's hard to explain, like how we've been saying, but
Yeah.
it was real to all of us.
Oh, I 150% believe you. Like I've I've sensed that darkness that you're talking about before. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but I have sensed it in people. And for the most part, it hasn't really been people close to me that have had that type of darkness. But it's like when it's there, you know it. You can feel it.
I've only sensed that darkness in a few times, like how my that darkness that like my brother was kind of giving off. The other time I've sensed that was actually at a rave. My only rave I've been to. Um, Inside the rave where it was in the Coliseum, and it was like a big like decadence is what they call it. It's like the New Year's rave that they have. Like a big one. Like Tiesto was performing at this. That's how big. I don't know if you know who Tiesto is. I don't even know if he still makes
I
music.
doubt.
He was like one of the biggest EDM people, but
Okay.
inside the Coliseum where everyone's dancing, it was all like light energy and stuff. But the minute you like kind of get outside of the Coliseum where like the concession stands and everything is, there was just so much darkness in the air and so much like I remember walking through it and I'm like looking into people's eyes, like people that were on the floor shaking, scared, and like you can't see their soul in their eyes. And there's just like there was just this dark evilness on the outside of this EDM thing. And I mean, come to find out too that this was I mean, this did make national headlines, is that some chemists made poisonous acid and all these people were ODing and dying. Like all these people that I was seeing around this place were dying. Um, and like witnessing all that, being that me being that sensitive, like I hated the feeling. I hated being around all of that death and darkness. Like I never went to a rave again. I don't want to go to a rave again, even though this isn't everyone's experiences with raves, but my experience of seeing, looking at someone in their eyes and not seeing their soul and just seeing like just darkness. It.
I know
I
what you're talking about. It is there's nothing darker.
yeah, and I've never really
Just
witnessed that like in that big of a format of so much darkness and
yeah, in like one spot. God, I can't imagine seeing so many people like that. I have seen it where it's like where there's nobody there in a person. It has been due to drugs and not due to drugs. I know what you're talking about. It is you can't unsee you can't, and it is so dark.
yeah,
It's terrifying. It's you just made me remember that.
yeah. I mean,
Oh God, that's
I've never done
uh,
acid, but I mean, even after seeing that, I'll never do it. I mean, a lot of people
no,
have
it's
good
terrifying.
experiences, but
And beyond that, one thing that I've heard, um, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but like I know that oh, I've heard that possessions are more likely to happen in a person that does a lot of drugs because there is the trauma there. That's an energy source. They're more easily possessed because they're under an influence often. And then, yeah, that negativity just spirals.
yeah, I mean, it was weird
It
because
makes sense. I would have to do research, but
it it didn't seem like it was coming from one person. It was just like the entire
oh, yeah, I
because
don't mean
it
in that
the
specific
oh
instance,
yeah oh
but
yeah
because that was, oh my God.
like I know I've like I had heard stories about like the darker parts of the world in these like type of like I wouldn't say a rave was a darker part of the world, but it has that darkness
Well,
to
if you
it.
saw that face in so many people, I would say that is a very dark place.
Yeah, and and the fact that it was just this giant sold out Denver Coliseum, which is like one of the It's like one of our biggest coliseums out here. Like it was just on the outside of where the everyone was dancing and having fun. It was like there's this darkness just surrounding the entire place. Like it did feel like this was an evil place to be. Like, and maybe it was just from all of the deaths that were happening with the that evil just kind of encompassed it. Because everyone inside the Coliseum dancing and raving, they were almost like acting like none of this stuff was happening outside of it, or they were just oblivious to it and stuff. Yeah,
That's
that
horrible.
it's a feeling that I'll never forget. Um, yeah.
No.
So yeah.
Terrible.
So leaving on such a dark note, yeah,
This was a good talk. It is so fascinating. This whole world is so fascinating. There is so much to it beyond even just ghosts and things. We touched on a lot of interesting things.
the one thing I know is that I don't. There is so much in the world I don't know, and I'm not gonna
Mhm.
act like I do know it.
I I can't claim to understand much of any of it.
And
I would love to. I would love to know it all, but
and and for everyone watching, like when I speak about these things of spirituality, that like I'm saying that I kind of do know. I'm 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 only speaking that of what I've been taught. Never something like I don't know if any of that is true, but I'm not gonna not doubt it because I've experienced things that are unexplainable.
yeah,
So
that's the thing. I've tried to talk myself out of believing this stuff so many times in my life. So many times. And that first story that I told you about my mom clearing the house when I was gone and I didn't even know, and she didn't even know about the spirit that was in my room, the kid. Like every time I think about that, I'm just like, there's no way. Like this has to be real. My experiences are real.
yeah, because
It's
when you think that they're not real, it makes you feel crazy. But when you're like, I experienced that, I'm not crazy.
yeah.
But if you're like, oh, maybe I didn't experience it, that's what makes you feel
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
I know, I know. It's like, okay, then what moved the blanket?
Yeah. What moved the car? What? Why did this bear hug me back?
I like that sentence. Just why did the bear hug me back then, huh? Ghosts. uh no, this is cool. I hope that that you definitely talk to a lot more people on the show. I like this spinoff. This is cool.
Yeah, I feel like it worked. And, yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Well,
It's
everyone,
been awesome.
thank y'all for joining. Have some good sleep tonight after this.
There's only
Scares.
positive ghosts in your house.
Remember, burn something for protection. Burn a bowl, light up a cigarette, candle. Vaping is not burning anything. So you need it. Yeah, you need actual smoke, not vapor. And yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Um, everyone
I
thank my
did.
special guest, or my co-host actually, Fireside Shadow, and I am Carpool, and
Yes,
and
I'm Reba.
And we'll see you next time on Paranormal Stories.